Next up, we have our public comment. We have 3 that have signed up. We'll start off with Heidi Matthews with the UEA, and if we can put Board Member Gravitt, can I get you to put that one mic up on the podium, and then can I get one of our AGs to turn this one mic off that's on the tables, or both of those? Yeah. We still have another one on. Oh, thank you, Heidi.
Good morning, Heidi Matthews with the Utah Education Association. I was just so inspired by that presentation, that discussion, and I want to take the class. The idea that Mr. Mon had of running the decisions through the parent lens. At the UEA, we're a mission-driven organization, and our mission is our lens that drives our work. Advance the cause of public education in partnership with others, strengthen the teaching profession, promotes quality schools for Utah's children, and advocate for the well-being of members. This mission is the lens that guides our work, and we filter, through, with which we assess legislation, rules, and other policy considerations. Sorry about that. So with regards to licensing, we at the UEA aren't just trying to be difficult, truly. Our mission demands that we actively engage as stakeholders in a licensing system that sets the bar high and assures that each and every child in Utah is taught by a qualified educator who is prepared to reach, teach, and inspire their class on the very first day. So right now, that's not what our 277502 is proposing. Yesterday, you received a letter detailing specific concerns with this rule, as well as the legislative piece of House Bill 40 on educator licensing revisions. We raised these significant concerns with the committee last month, and they weren't specifically addressed. Our hope is that today you will discuss these concerns, help us to understand how the proposed legislation and rule will provide a meaningful licensing system that promotes high standards for the teachers of Utah's students. The current teacher shortage in Utah makes your job very difficult. And as I said last month, I urge you to have one foot in the present and one in the future as you craft this rule. The draft of our 277502 seems to be firmly rooted with both feet in the present, with a considerable focus on easing the way into the classroom. We recognize this very real concern. Our concerns in the letter are about the future and how memorializing lower standards and expectations for educator licensing will have long-term implications for the quality of education for our students. Please discuss the concerns today so that staff can better understand before drafting the improvements for next month. We are the teachers at UEA, we're ready, and let's engage in this discussion now in the crafting of the rule. And as we've seen with other rules, the quality and acceptance are much higher when stakeholders are included in the process. Let's do the work now. Let's get all the stakeholder input on the front end and assure that we can all get behind the best licensing system for our teaching profession and our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Vance New Meyer.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to address you here today. I appreciate the dedicated teachers and parents who are raising or help to guide these children in their education experience. But I want to talk to you about another aspect of influence of schools on students. What would you do if your son or daughter brought home their biology homework and in it you read this statement, or a statement similar to the following? The theory of evolution has also deeply influenced our way of thinking about ourselves. One reason is, of course, that evolution is in contradiction to the literal interpretation of the Bible. Another difficulty is that it seems to diminish human significance. The new biology asks us to accept the proposition that we are not fundamentally different from other organisms, either in our origin or in our place in the natural world. That is exactly what happened to me when my kids brought home this textbook for their biology high school AP class. What would you do? This is not an isolated instance. It was not but a few months ago I was before you and mentioned the advocacy of the Utah State Office of Education of a lesson plan which was popularized. Why? Because it was designed to work with the next generation science standards. This lesson plan focused on the life and research of Stephen Hawking, which was recommended to be viewed multiple times if time permitted. In this video, this celebrated scientist talked about the intent of his work, which was, I wondered, quote, I wondered if the Big Bang could have happened on its own without the need for a God to get it going, close quote. Moments later in the video, as it played before the students, Stephen Hawking announced his scientific conclusion. He boldly states in the video that, quote, there is no previous time in the universe in which the universe could have a cause. It spontaneously created itself in the Big Bang, close quote. You see, no gods need apply. Modern science can answer all the big questions by an appeal to the interaction of matter and energy. Science, our Utah students are told, is a distinctive way of understanding the natural world. Science seeks to increase our understanding through empirical evidence. Science, as we have been lectured by this Board of Education, by members sitting on it, requires no faith. It is, quote, a way of knowing. I understand that a question will be sitting before you shortly as to whether Utah will align its testings with the next generation science standards. This is the topic that I'm addressing. The answer to that question will further determine the underlying philosophy, the teleology of Utah's science education. If you think of what I'm doing as advocating the injection of science countering faith-based arguments, you're wrong. No, I don't advocate these. I see my time is up, but if I may conclude by saying this, science is questioning, but the questions that are not allowed in the science classroom today are the questions that do lead to more than material causes. And there are many scientific explanations that show that matter and energy are not sufficient explanations for our present condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is, we'll invite Wendy Hart.
Thank you for taking the time to hear my comments today. My name is Wendy Hart, and I represent the citizens of Alpine, Cedar Hills, and Highland on the Alpine School Board. My comments do not, however, represent those of the Alpine Board. They do represent the concerns of a large number of my constituents. I would like to address the current math standards and how they are failing our kids, but also to let you know that we have a great opportunity ahead of us to be able to correct this failing. Unfortunately, with only a few minutes, I can't begin to explain these concerns or to address solutions. I am asking that those with concerns be granted time to do a formal presentation and have a seat at the table on math standards. We will find solutions only through vigorous debate and discussion. In the course of knocking on doors, frustration with math is a constant theme. Parents want to be involved, they want to be listened to, and teachers have been told that public opposition, quote, would not bode well for them professionally, end quote. How can we expect to find excellence when dissent is silenced or ridiculed? If given sufficient time, I would like to explain how adopting standards that originated outside of Utah has left parents and taxpayers without a voice. How our 2007 Utah-developed math standards were clearer, more concise, and more coherent with exceptionally high school content. That is no longer the case. How the practice standards are leading to less understanding, not more depth. How the failure is not in the implementation. How in order to get to calculus these days, kids need to condense 4 years of high-level math into 3 years, and how that is setting up the vast majority of kids to fail. The cost our kids have paid and are continuing to pay and lack of math knowledge is already too high. These standards have to change. A few months ago, you discussed changing the math standards, but the price tag was upwards of $300 million. I would just incidentally note that when the standards were changed in 2010, cost was not ever really brought up. With such numbers, no wonder you shied away, but there are answers, good ones, that don't cost nearly that amount and also come with a proven track record. I plead with you to allow those of us with concerns to have more than a few minutes to present the other side. Invite us to the table for a robust discussion. Please consider the cost to our kids if we don't change our math standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes our public comment period.